2 years had passed since the great battle at Earth, and the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have imagined. Captain Danny Walsh stood on the bridge of his ship, the Guardian's Hope, as it approached the planet Kalara Prime. This world had been one of the first to ask for human protection after breaking free from Council rule. "Captain," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Ben Torres, "we are receiving a welcome signal from the Kalari government. They are inviting us to attend their Independence Day celebration." Danny smiled as he looked at the green and blue planet growing larger on his screen. The Kalari were a peaceful people who looked like tall, thin humans with silver skin and large eyes. For 300 years, they had been forced to mine precious metals for the Council. Now they were free to develop their own culture and technology. "Take us into orbit, Lieutenant," Danny ordered. "I want to see how our friends are doing." On the planet's surface, President Thyra Velkon waited at the spaceport to greet the human visitors. She was one of the first Kalari leaders to contact Earth after the battle, asking for protection from Council retaliation. The humans had not only agreed to help, but had also shared technology that made life better for her people. "The humans are landing now," reported her aide, a young Kalari named Jorik. "Their ambassador is bringing news from other protected worlds." Ambassador Sarah Williams stepped off the human transport with a small team of advisors. She had spent the last 2 years traveling between different worlds, helping them establish independent governments and defense systems. Her work had become a model for human-alien cooperation throughout the galaxy. "President Velkan," Sarah said with a warm smile, "it is wonderful to see you again. Your people's progress has been remarkable." Thyra's large silver eyes sparkled with pride. "We could not have done this without human assistance. Our cities are cleaner, our technology is more advanced, and our children are learning about sciences we never knew existed." As they walked through the Kalari capital city, the changes were obvious everywhere. New buildings used human engineering, techniques to withstand earthquakes and storms. Schools taught both Kalari and human history. Medical centers used a combination of alien and human technology to heal diseases that had plagued the planet for centuries. "How are the other worlds doing?" Thyra asked as they visited a new research facility where Kalari and human scientists worked together. "Very well," Sarah replied. "The Zephyrian cloud cities are now completely energy independent using human solar technology. The Aquatic Federation has built underwater farms that produce enough food for their entire population. Even the warrior clans of Torcan have learned to use their fighting skills for protection rather than conquest." Meanwhile, back in the reformed Galactic Council chambers, a very different kind of meeting was taking place. The Council had been transformed from a military empire into a peaceful organization that helped worlds cooperate and trade with each other. High Chancellor Mortesh, whose crystal body now glowed with the warm gold color of contentment, addressed the mixed group of council representatives and human advisors. "The latest reports show that galactic trade has increased by 400% since the reforms began," Mortesh announced. "Worlds that were once forced to send tribute to the council are now prosperous trading partners." Colonel Steve Barnes, who now served as the human liaison to the Reformed Council, stood to present his report. 47 additional worlds have requested independence in the past 6 months. All transitions have been peaceful, with full support from both the Council and the Terran Defense Alliance. The transformation had not been easy. Some Council species had resisted the changes at first, believing that strength could only come through domination. But as they saw former subject worlds prospering under the new system, even the most stubborn groups began to change their minds. War Prime Kexathul, who now held the title of Defense Coordinator, had become one of the strongest supporters of the New Way. "I spent my entire life believing that conquest brought honor," he admitted to the assembly. "I have learned that true honor comes from protecting those who cannot protect themselves." Dr. Helen Grant, now leading a galaxy-wide scientific cooperation program, added her own perspective. The sharing of knowledge between species has led to breakthroughs we never thought possible. When beings work together instead of fighting, everyone benefits. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Parker stood in the command center that had once been hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains. The secret base was now an open facility where beings from across the galaxy came to train in defensive tactics and peaceful cooperation. "Admiral," reported Captain Betty Rogers, "we have received formal requests for protection from 12 more worlds this month. Our fleet expansion program is ready to meet these needs." The human fleet had grown beyond anything the old council could have imagined. But unlike the council's ships, which had been built for conquest, human vessels were designed for protection and exploration. Each ship carried scientists, teachers, and engineers alongside its military crew. "What about the former council military? Leaders?" Parker asked. "How are they adapting to the new roles?" "Better than expected," Betty replied. "Many of them have become excellent peacekeepers. General Cormac's former warrior clans are now the most effective protective force in the Outer Rim sectors." The success of the transformation surprised even the humans. They had expected some species to resist the changes or try to restart the old ways of conquest. Instead, most aliens embraced the new system once they saw its benefits. Captain Rick Mason, now head of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force, received a call from a distant world that was having territorial disputes with its neighbors. Instead of sending warships to conquer both sides, his team of human and alien diplomats helped them find a peaceful solution that satisfied everyone. "Conflict resolution through cooperation," Rick explained to his mixed species team. "It takes longer than conquest, but the results last much longer and make everyone happier." As news of successful, peaceful solutions spread throughout the galaxy, more and more worlds abandoned old habits of fighting and began working together. The threat of human military intervention was rarely needed because most conflicts could be solved through negotiation and compromise. Jake Collins, now serving as Earth's primary ambassador to the galaxy, stood before a gathering of representatives from over 200 worlds. These beings had come together not because they were forced to, but because they wanted to cooperate and learn from each other. 2 years ago, many of you believed that strength meant the ability to conquer others," Jake said to the diverse audience. "Today, we see that true strength means the wisdom to protect others and the courage to choose cooperation over conflict." Galaxy had learned that humans were dangerous. Not because they were aggressive, but because they understood something the old council had never grasped. The strongest civilizations were built on cooperation, not conquest. Captain Jake Morrison pressed his face against the cold glass of the observation deck. Below him stretched another dead world. The planet looked peaceful from space, with blue oceans and green continents that should have been home to billions of living beings. But the sensors told a different story. No life signs, no energy readings, nothing but silence where a great civilization once thrived. "How many does this make?" Jake asked his science officer. Dr. Lisa Bennett looked up from her data pad with tired eyes. 14, sir. 14 dead civilizations in the past 6 months." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. When humanity first reached the stars, they expected to find other races. They found them, all right. But every single one was dead. Not just dead, completely wiped out. Cities turned to dust, space stations floating empty in the void. Entire star systems that once buzzed with activity now silent as tombs. The worst part was the pattern. Lisa had spent months studying the ruins, and every civilization followed the same timeline. They would develop faster than light travel, expand across the galaxy, build incredible technologies, and then exactly 2,847 years later, they would vanish overnight. Not a single survivor, not even a distress signal. The Cathara Empire had built massive structures around entire suns, harvesting their energy to power cities that stretched across continents. Their technology was so advanced they could move planets, like chess pieces. But 2,847 years after their first FTL flight, they were gone. Their cities stood empty, their great machines shut down forever. The Zephyrian Collective had been traders and explorers. They built a network of space stations that connected hundreds of worlds. Their ships were works of art, designed for long journeys between distant stars. They seemed to have been a peaceful people who valued knowledge above all else. But the pattern claimed them too, exactly on schedule. The Vorlak hegemony had been warriors and poets. Their ships could fold space itself, appearing anywhere in the galaxy in seconds. They left behind libraries full of epic tales about honor and courage. Jake had read some of their stories, translated by the computer. They reminded him of ancient human myths. But courage and honor meant nothing when the end came. Back on Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan sat in her office reading the reports from the New Dawn and dozens of other exploration ships. Each report was the same: more dead worlds, more extinct civilizations, more evidence of the terrible pattern that seemed to govern the galaxy. Kate pulled up the file that kept her awake at night. Humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel exactly 2,944 years ago. If the pattern held true, they had 3 years left. 3 years before whatever force had destroyed 14 advanced civilizations would come for them. She had called meetings with the best scientists and military leaders on Earth. They had theories but no answers. Some thought it was a natural phenomenon, like a cosmic wave that swept through the galaxy every few thousand years. Others believed it was an enemy so powerful that no civilization could resist them. But theories would not save humanity when their time came. The Galactic Council was humanity's only hope for answers. It was a loose group of the few races that had somehow survived the pattern. Most of them were ancient species that had learned to hide in the dark corners of space. They welcomed humanity, but offered little hope. Council Speaker Thymel belonged to a race called the Etherians. They looked like tall, thin humans with pale blue skin and large silver eyes. Thymel had lived for over 3,000 years and had witnessed the pattern repeat itself 17 times. Each time, a young race would emerge full of hope and energy. They would spread across the stars, build wonders that defied imagination, and then simply disappear. "Your people are special," Thymel told the human ambassador during their first meeting. "You expand faster than most. Your technology advances more quickly. Your ships are more powerful. But in the end, none of that will matter. The pattern always wins." The human ambassador, a tough woman named Carol Davis, refused to accept defeat. There has to be a way to break the cycle. Someone must have found a solution. Thymel's silver eyes grew sad. Many have tried. The Nexari built massive fortress, worlds, and hid their entire population underground. The Kaleth created a fleet of ships that could travel to other galaxies. The Morphic Collective uploaded their consciousness into quantum computers. All failed. The force that enforces the pattern finds everyone, everywhere. Meanwhile, on the rim world of Kepler 442b, Lieutenant Commander Ryan Torres was having trouble sleeping. He commanded a small outpost on the edge of human space, far from Earth and the main colonies. It was supposed to be a quiet assignment, monitoring deep space for potential threats. But for the past week, his sensors had been picking up strange readings. Something massive was moving in the empty space between galaxies. The readings made no sense according to human physics. The objects were too large and moving too fast. When Ryan tried to focus the sensors on them, they seemed to phase in and out of reality like ghosts. Ryan had sent 3 reports to Earth, but his superiors thought the sensors were malfunctioning. They ordered him to run diagnostics and stop bothering them with false alarms. But Ryan knew his equipment. He had been monitoring deep space for 5 years, and he had never seen anything like this. The readings were getting stronger each day. Whatever was out there was getting closer. Ryan could not shake the feeling that humanity's time was running out faster than anyone realized. He began making preparations to defend his small outpost, though he had no idea what he would be defending. Against, Dr. Lisa Bennett continued her research aboard the New Dawn, trying to find some clue that might save her species. She studied the ruins of dead civilizations, looking for any pattern beyond the obvious one. She searched for survivors, hidden bunkers, escape pods, anything that might explain how the pattern could be broken. One night, while studying artifacts from the Vorlak hegemony, Lisa made a disturbing discovery. The Vorlak had known their end was coming. Their final writings spoke of watchers in the dark, ancient beings who maintained the balance of the galaxy. The Vorlak had tried to prepare, building weapons and defenses beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. But their preparations had been useless. The last Vorlak message was a warning to whoever might find it. The architects come for all who reach too far. They have watched the galaxy for millions of years, ensuring no single race grows too powerful. We thought our strength would save us. We were wrong. Perhaps the next to rise will find wisdom where we found only pride. Lisa stared at the translated message for hours. The architects. That was the first name anyone had given to the force behind the pattern. But who were they? Where did they come from? And most importantly, how could humanity defeat enemies that had been destroying civilizations since before humans evolved? As the New Dawn continued its journey through the graveyard of dead worlds, Lisa began to understand the true scope of the threat facing humanity. This was not just about survival. This was about breaking a cycle of destruction that had governed the galaxy for millions of years. The question was whether humanity could accomplish what no other race had managed to do. The galaxy had watched 14 civilizations fall. Soon it would be humanity's turn to face the test that had destroyed every advanced species in galactic history. The only question was whether humanity would join the list of the extinct, or somehow find a way to break the pattern that had claimed so many before them. 3 weeks after the battle at Earth, the Galactic Council chambers looked very different. The seats that had once been filled with proud and confident aliens now held nervous beings who whispered quietly among themselves. Many seats were completely empty because their representatives had fled to distant worlds. High Chancellor Mortesh sat in her highest chair, but her crystal body no longer glowed with bright colors. Instead, she flickered with the gray color of fear and uncertainty. Around her, the surviving council members waited for news from the human fleet that was now traveling toward their homeworlds. Ambassador Zethkar stood in the center of the room, but he was no longer the proud creature who had mocked humanity months before. His 4 arms shook as he read from a tablet containing the latest reports. "Honored delegates," Zethkar said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I have received confirmation that the humans have successfully captured 17 major military bases throughout Council space. They destroyed our fleets at each location, with the same ease they showed at Earth." The chamber filled with sounds of distress. Some aliens clicked their claws nervously, others made low moaning sounds, and a few simply sat in stunned silence. War Prime Kexthul, who had somehow survived the battle at Earth, spoke from his chair near the front. His proud military bearing was gone, replaced by the defeated posture of a warrior who had learned he was not as strong as he thought. "The humans did not just defeat us," Kexthul admitted. "They have been planning this for decades. Every diplomatic meeting, every trade agreement, every time we thought we were teaching them about our technology, they were actually learning how to destroy us. Admiral Vextar's metal body showed dents and scorch marks from the battle. Her computer brain had been analyzing the human tactics for weeks, trying to understand how they had lost so completely. Their technology is not just advanced," Vextar reported. "It is specifically designed to counter our weapons and defenses. They studied us like scientists studying insects in a laboratory." The great doors of the chamber opened and Jake Collins walked in. But this time, he was not alone. Behind him came Admiral Lisa Parker, Captain Rick Mason, Dr. Helen Grant, and several other human officers. They wore clean uniforms and walked with the confidence of victors. The aliens in the chamber seemed to shrink back as the humans approached the center of the room. These same creatures who had laughed at Jake months before now looked at him with fear and respect. "Honored delegates of the Galactic Council," Jake said, his voice carrying clearly through the silent chamber. "I have returned to discuss the new arrangement between our species." High Chancellor. Mortesh's crystal form flickered nervously. "Ambassador Collins, we wish to discuss terms for ending this conflict. What does Earth want from us?" Admiral Parker stepped forward to answer. "Earth's position has changed since our last meeting. We are no longer asking to be left alone. We are here to offer protection to any world that desires freedom from Council rule." The words hit the chamber like a bomb. The aliens had expected the humans to demand tribute or territory. Instead, they were offering to protect other species from the Council's power. Dr. Helen Grant activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Red dots marked Council military bases, but most of them now showed as captured or destroyed by human forces. "We have removed your ability to conquer other worlds through military force," Dr. Grant explained calmly. "Over the past 3 weeks, we have captured or destroyed 70% of your war fleets. The remaining ships are trapped in their home systems by our blockades." Captain Rick Mason added, "We have also freed 43 worlds that were under Council control. Each of these planets has chosen to govern itself under human protection rather than remain under Council rule." The aliens looked at each other with growing panic. Their empire, which had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years, was falling apart in a matter of weeks. General Cormac, his once proud warrior spirit broken, asked the question that was on every alien's mind. "What do you want from us? What are your terms for peace?" Jake Collins smiled, but it was not a cruel smile. It was the smile of someone who had won a great victory but did not wish to be unnecessarily harsh. "Our terms are simple," Jake said. "The Galactic Council will transform from a conquering empire into a true diplomatic organization. No more forced membership, no more tribute from weaker worlds, no more threats against species that choose independence." Admiral Parker continued the explanation. "Any world that wishes to remain part of the Council may do so freely. Any world that chooses independence will be protected by the Terran Defense Alliance. Any world that asks for help against aggression will receive it." Dr. Grant activated another display showing human shipyards throughout the galaxy. "We are prepared to share our technological improvements with any species that embraces peaceful cooperation. The advances we have made can benefit everyone, not just humans." High Chancellor Mortesh's crystal body slowly shifted to a deep blue color, which meant acceptance and submission. "The Galactic Council formally recognizes the Terran Defense Alliance as co-protectors of galactic peace. We agree to transform our organization into a diplomatic body rather than a military empire." Ambassador Zethkar, who had once been so proud and arrogant, now spoke with genuine respect. "How do we know that humans will not become conquerors like we were? What stops you from ruling the galaxy through force?" Jake Collins answered with simple honesty. "Because we learned something that the Council never understood. True strength does not come from conquering others. It comes from protecting those who cannot protect themselves." Captain Rick Mason stepped forward with a data tablet. "We have prepared detailed plans for the transition. Council military forces will be reduced to defensive levels only. All conquered worlds will be given the choice of independence or willing membership. Human advisors will help establish fair governments on any world that requests assistance." The transformation that followed amazed the galaxy. Within months, dozens of species that had been forced into the Council chose independence under human protection. Trade flourished between free worlds. Scientific cooperation led to advances that benefited everyone. War Prime Kex Thul, who now served as a military advisor to the Reformed Council, made a surprising discovery. I have learned more about effective defense in 6 months of human cooperation than I did in 30 years of conquest. The Galactic Council chambers, once filled, with the laughter of conquerors mocking the weak, now hosted genuine diplomatic discussions between equal partners. Species that had been enemies for centuries began working together on projects that helped their people. Admiral Lisa Parker stood on the observation deck of the human embassy, looking out at the diverse ships of the new Galactic Alliance. They thought we were primitive because we were peaceful. They learned that we are dangerous precisely because we choose when to fight. Jake Collins joined her at the window. The galaxy is finally learning that strength should protect the innocent, not prey upon them. And in the distance, Earth's blue light shone like a beacon of hope for all free worlds. The Council fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system like a swarm of angry metal insects. 1,200 warships moved in perfect formation through the darkness of space. Their hulls gleamed with silver armor, and their weapons glowed with deadly energy. War Prime Kexthul stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Conquest of Worlds. The massive ship was bigger than most Earth cities, with enough firepower to destroy entire planets. Through the large windows, he could see his fleet stretching out in all directions like a sea of stars. "Navigation officer," Kexthul commanded, his voice deep and threatening. "Report on the human defenses." Lieutenant Ziltok looked up from his control panel with confusion on his alien face. "War Prime, our sensors are detecting some unusual readings throughout this solar system. There are energy signatures everywhere, but we cannot see what is causing them." Kexthul's many eyes focused on the smaller alien. "Explain what you mean by unusual." "The energy patterns are very advanced, sir. More advanced than what we expected from humans. But our visual scans show nothing except empty space and a few primitive orbital stations around their planet." Admiral Vextar, whose metal body gleamed under the bridge lights, stepped forward. Her computer brain processed information much faster than organic minds. "Perhaps their technology creates energy fields we have not seen before. But it matters little. No matter what tricks they have, we outnumber them 30 to 1. General Cormac, the giant wolf-like creature, growled his agreement. "My sensors detect only 43 human ships in this entire system. Most of them are small cargo vessels. This will be even easier than we thought." War Prime Kexthul felt pleased with this news. He had brought enough ships to conquer 10 worlds, but it seemed he would barely need 1/10 of his force to crush. "The humans! Begin standard pacification procedures," Kexthul ordered. "Destroy their communications satellites first. I want them to understand they are helpless before we land our armies." But 50 kilometers away from the flagship, completely invisible to Council sensors, Captain Alex Turner watched everything from the bridge of his stealth ship. The Shadow of Earth was humanity's most advanced scout vessel, covered in materials that bent light and energy around it like water flowing around a rock. "This is Shadow of Earth to command," Alex spoke quietly into his communication device. "The Council fleet has taken the bait. They are moving into attack formation just like we predicted." Deep in the hidden base under the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Lisa Parker received Alex's message with a smile. Around her, hundreds of officers and technicians prepared for the moment they had been training for their entire lives. "All human vessels," Admiral Parker spoke into her microphone. "This is Admiral Parker. Operation Earthrise is now active. Show them what we have really been building." Across the solar system, something impossible began to happen. Near the planet Jupiter, what looked like empty space suddenly filled with human warships. They appeared out of nowhere as their stealth systems turned off, their hulls shining with advanced armor and powerful weapons. Around the asteroid belt, chunks of rock split open like eggs to reveal hidden weapons platforms. Each platform was the size of a building and armed with rail guns that could fire metal slugs at nearly the speed of light. On the far side of Earth's moon, the surface itself began to move. Massive doors opened in the gray rock, and from underneath came the largest human ships anyone had ever seen. These ships were longer than the Council flagship and bristled with weapons that glowed with dangerous energy. War Prime Kexthul watched, his tactical display with growing horror as thousands of new contacts appeared on his screens. Where moments before the display had shown 43 primitive human vessels, it now showed over 3,000 advanced warships surrounding his fleet. "This cannot be correct," Kexthul roared at his navigation officer. "Run a full system diagnostic. These readings must be wrong." But Lieutenant Ziltok's hands shook as he checked his instruments again and again. "War Prime, all systems are working perfectly. The humans have 3,000 ships. And, sir, their technology readings are more advanced than ours. Admiral, Vextar's computer brain processed the new information in milliseconds." "Impossible. Our intelligence reports showed they had no significant military construction. How could they hide so many ships?" The answer came from Captain Rick Mason, whose voice suddenly filled every speaker in the Council fleet. Human hackers had broken into their communication systems as easily as opening an unlocked door. "Attention, Council forces." Rick's voice was calm and confident. "You are now surrounded by the Earth Defense Fleet. For 50 years you have underestimated humanity. Today you learn the price of that mistake." General Cormac's fur stood up in fear and anger. "How are they speaking to us? Our communications are supposed to be secure." "Because we have been inside your computer systems for decades," came another human voice. This time it was Dr. Helen Grant, speaking from Earth. "Every piece of technology you use, we understand better than you do. We took your designs and made them perfect." War Prime Kexthul tried to regain control of the situation. He had conquered 1,000 worlds and would not be intimidated by humans, no matter how many ships they had. "All vessels prepare for battle," Kexthul commanded. "These humans may have more ships than we expected, but we are the finest warriors in the galaxy." Admiral Parker's voice answered him directly. "Attention, War Prime Kexthul. You came to our home to conquer and enslave us. You laughed at our diplomats and called us primitive animals. You have exactly 10 minutes to begin withdrawing from our solar system, or we will show you what primitive animals can do when their families are threatened." Kexthul's pride would not let him retreat. "We are the Galactic Council. We have ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. We do not run from humans." "Then you have chosen war," Admiral Parker replied sadly. "May your ancestors forgive you for the mistake you are about to make." Captain Betty Rogers, commanding the human Battleship Defiance, received her orders and smiled grimly. "All weapons, target the flagship's shield generators. Use resonance frequency 774. Dr. Grant says that should crack their defenses like an eggshell." War Prime Kexthul realized too late that he had led his fleet into a trap. The humans had not just prepared a defense, they had prepared a slaughter. As the first human weapons began to fire, their energy beams cut through Council shields like they were made of paper. "Return fire!" Kexthul screamed. "All ships attack!" The battle for Earth had begun, but instead of the easy conquest the Council expected, they found themselves fighting for their lives against an enemy who had turned their own technology against them. The humans had been patient, learning and preparing for decades. Now it was time to show the galaxy what happened when someone threatened humanity's home. 6 months had passed since Jake Collins stood alone in the Galactic Council chambers. Now he was back on Earth, but not in any place most people knew about. Deep under the Rocky Mountains, behind thick metal doors and through long tunnels, sat a secret base that did not appear on any map. Admiral Lisa Parker walked through the main command center of the hidden facility. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her dark eyes looked serious as she studied the screens around her. She had been in charge of Earth's real defense plans for over 20 years. Most people on Earth had no idea she even existed. "Attention, everyone," Admiral Parker called out to the room full of people working at computers and control panels. It is time for our final briefing before the Council arrives. The large room filled with Earth's top military officers, scientists, and spies. They came from every country on the planet, but they all worked together for one goal: keeping Earth free. Captain Rick Mason stood up from his seat near the front. He was tall and strong, with short black hair and scars on his hands from years of dangerous missions. He led Earth's Special Operations Division, the people who did the jobs no one else could do. Our spy satellites show the Council fleet will be here in 3 days, Rick said, pointing to a large screen that showed space around Earth. They are bringing exactly 1,200 ships, just like War Prime Kexthul promised. The screen changed to show pictures of the alien ships. They were huge and scary-looking, with weapons that could destroy entire cities. Most people would have been terrified to see so many enemy ships coming toward Earth. But the people in this room were not afraid. They were excited. Dr. Helen Grant stepped forward to speak next. She was a small woman with messy brown hair and thick glasses, but she was the smartest person in the room. She had spent her whole life studying alien technology. For 50 years we have been preparing for this day, Dr. Grant said, her voice getting louder with excitement. Every time an alien ship crashed on our planet, we studied it. Every time we captured alien technology, we made it better. The Council thinks we are primitive, but we have been learning from them for decades. The screen changed again to show pictures of human ships. But these ships looked nothing like the ones the Council had seen. They were sleek and fast, with smooth lines and advanced weapons. They looked more advanced than even the Council ships. Colonel Steve Barnes, a thin man with graying hair, stood up from his seat. He had been running spy missions in Council space for 10 years, pretending to be a traitor while he mapped their military bases and learned their secrets. "We know everything about them," Steve said with a smile. "We know how their ships work, how their weapons fire, and how their shields protect them. More importantly, we know how to break all of these things." Admiral Parker walked to the center of the room. Behind her, the screen showed a map of the solar system, but this map was very different from what the Council expected to find. Council thinks Earth has maybe 40 ships, Admiral Parker said. They have seen our public fleet, the old, slow ships we use for trade and exploration. What they have not seen is what we have been building in secret. The map zoomed in on the moon. What looked like empty gray rock split open like a flower, showing massive hidden shipyards underneath. Hundreds of advanced human ships sat in these secret bases, ready for battle. Our real fleet has over 3,000 ships, Admiral Parker continued. Each one is faster and stronger than anything the Council has. We built them using their own technology, but we made it better. Captain Betty Rogers, who commanded one of the new human battleships, raised her hand. "Ma'am, how do we know our improvements actually work? We have never fought the Council before." Dr. Grant smiled and pushed her glasses up on her nose. "Because we have been testing our weapons on their own ships for years. Remember all those accidents that happened to Council vessels near our space? Those were not accidents." The room became very quiet as people realized what she meant. For years, Council ships had been mysteriously losing power, having computer problems, or suffering weapon failures when they came too close to Earth. The Council thought they were just having bad luck. "We have been using them as test subjects," Dr. Grant explained. "Every time they sent a ship to spy on us, we tested a new weapon or defense system on it. They never knew we were doing it." Major Danny Walsh, who commanded Earth's stealth ships, stood up next. He was young but very smart, and his ships could become completely invisible to enemy sensors. "Our stealth technology is 50 years ahead of theirs," Danny said proudly. "We have ships sitting right next to their fleet right now, and they have no idea we are there. We are watching everything they do." The screen showed pictures taken from inside the Council fleet. Human spies had been watching the aliens for months, learning their battle plans and finding their weaknesses. "But the best part," said Colonel Frank Miller, who ran Earth's Computer Warfare Division, is that we have been inside their computer systems for years. Every council ship has human viruses hidden in its computer brain. When the battle starts, we can take control of their own ships. Admiral Parker looked around the room at all the brave men and women who had worked so hard to protect Earth. The Council is coming here to conquer us. They think we are weak and helpless. They have no idea that they are flying into the most dangerous trap in galactic history. Captain Rick Mason pulled up another display. We have also been preparing for what comes after we win. Our teams have mapped every major Council military base in the galaxy. When they attack us, we will attack all of them at the same time. The plan was bigger than just defending Earth. Humanity was going to destroy the Council's ability to conquer other worlds ever again. Many species in the galaxy hate the Council, Admiral Parker explained. They are forced to obey because they are afraid of Council military power. When we destroy that power, those species will be free to govern themselves. Dr. Grant added, "We are not just fighting for Earth. We are fighting for every world that wants to be free." The room filled with determined voices as people began discussing final preparations. Weapons were checked, ships were fueled, and secret messages were sent to human agents throughout the galaxy. Jake Collins, who had returned from the council meeting, stood up to speak last. "I stood in their meeting hall and watched them laugh. At us. They think humans are nothing more than smart animals. In 3 days, they will learn that humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy when someone threatens our home." As the meeting ended, Admiral Parker looked out through the hidden base's windows at the Earth's surface far above. Soon, the Council fleet would arrive expecting an easy victory. Instead, they would find that they had made the biggest mistake. In galactic history, the trap was set. Now humanity just had to wait for their enemies to walk into it. The great meeting room of the Galactic Council stretched out like a massive dome under the stars. Thousands of alien beings filled the curved seats that rose up in circles around the center floor. The air buzzed with the sounds of different languages, being translated by machines into words everyone could understand. Ambassador Zethkar walked to the middle of the room. His 4 arms moved as he talked, and his purple skin gleamed under the bright lights. He was from the Vorthak Empire, one of the strongest groups in the galaxy. Behind him, a huge screen showed pictures of a small blue planet floating in space. "Look at this world called Earth," Zethkar said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. "The humans who live there have said no to us 3 times. They refuse our kind offer to join our empire. They say their little planet belongs to them, alone." Loud sounds filled the room as the aliens laughed. Some made clicking noises, others roared, and a few whistled in high voices. They all thought the same thing. Humans were stupid to say no to the mighty Galactic Council. High Chancellor Mortesh sat on the highest seat in the room. Her body looked like it was made of crystal, and it changed colors when she felt different things. Right now she was glowing purple because she found everything very funny. "These humans have only one world," Mortesh said, her voice sounding like music made of glass. "They just learned how to travel between stars a few years ago, and they think they can tell us what to do?" More laughter came from the crowd. Near the front, War Prime Kexthul stood up from his seat. He was huge, even sitting down. His body looked like a giant bug with sharp claws and many eyes. He was the leader of the hegemony's war fleets, and he had conquered more worlds than anyone else in the room. "I have taken over 1,000 planets," Kexthul said, his voice deep and scary. "Some had armies with millions of soldiers. Others had weapons that could destroy moons. But they all fell to our power. This Earth will be easy to take. We can use it to grow food for our empire." In the center of the room, a single human stood alone. Jake Collins wore the blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. The uniform looked plain and simple compared to the fancy clothes and strange bodies around him. He was much smaller than most of the aliens in the room. His brown hair was neat, and his green eyes looked calm. Even though everyone was laughing at his people, Jake had been sent to speak for all humans. He had traveled very far from Earth to come to this meeting. For months, he had tried to make peace with the Council. He had explained that humans wanted to be friends with other species, but the aliens only cared about making Earth part of their empire. "Respected members of the Council," Jake said, stepping forward. His voice was clear and strong. "Earth's answer has not changed. We want to live in peace with all of you. We want to trade and learn from each other. But we will never let anyone else rule our world. Our planet and our people are not things you can buy or take." The laughter got even louder. Some aliens started banging on their seats with their hands, claws, or tentacles. They thought Jake was the funniest thing they had ever seen. Zethkar walked closer to Jake. Even though Jake was not short for a human, the alien was much taller. Zethkar's 4 eyes looked down at Jake like he was looking at a small child. "Little human," Zethkar said, his voice full of mean laughter. "You talk about fighting us, but you know nothing about our power. My people alone have 10,000 warships. Each ship can destroy cities. Your whole species has maybe 30 or 40 small ships that can barely fly between planets." Jake looked up at the alien without fear. "That may be true, but our answer is still no." This made the aliens laugh even harder. Admiral Vextar of the Synthesis Collective stood up. Her body looked like it was made of metal and wires, with glowing blue lights where her eyes should be. "We have been watching your people," Vexatar said in a voice that sounded like a computer. "Your technology is hundreds of years behind ours. Your weapons are weak. Your ships are slow. You have no shields to protect your cities. Taking your world will be easier than taking candy from a baby." General Cormac of the Beast Clans roared his agreement. He looked like a giant wolf that walked on 2 legs with fur as black as space and teeth like knives. "My warriors are hungry for battle," Cormac growled. "But this will not even be a real fight. It will be like hunting rabbits." Jake listened to all of this without showing any fear on his face. He had expected this reaction. Earth's leaders had told him this would probably happen. The aliens were too proud to believe that humans could ever stand against them. "I understand you think we are weak," Jake said. "But I ask you to think carefully about what you are planning. War brings pain to everyone. There must be another way." High Chancellor Mortesh's crystal body turned bright red, which meant she was getting angry. "Enough of this waste of time," she said. "We have offered the humans a chance to join us peacefully. They have refused. Now they will learn what happens when someone says no to the Galactic Council." Zethkar turned to face the crowd of aliens. "I call for a vote. Should we add the planet Earth to our pacification schedule?" "Yes!" roared thousands of voices at once. The sound was so loud that Jake had to cover his ears. Aliens of every type raised their hands, claws, tentacles, and other body parts to show they agreed. Mortesh's body turned golden, which meant she was very happy. "The vote is unanimous. Earth will be pacified within 6 months. War Prime Kexthul, you will lead the operation." Kexthul's many eyes gleamed with excitement. "It will be my pleasure. I will bring 1,200 ships to their little blue world. That should be more than enough to handle whatever pathetic defense they try to put up." The crowd cheered again. To them, this was not even a real war. It was just cleaning up a small problem. They would take over Earth, make the humans into slaves or workers, and then move on to the next world. Jake stood in the middle of all this noise and hatred. He felt sad for what was about to happen, but he was not afraid. Earth had sent him here knowing this would probably be the result. His job was not to stop the invasion. His job was to make sure the Council committed to their attack. "If this is your final decision," Jake said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "then Earth will be ready for you." This brought more laughter from the crowd. They thought Jake was making a joke. As the meeting ended and the aliens began to leave, Jake stood alone in the center of the great room. He touched a small device hidden in his pocket. In 6 months, the Galactic Council would learn that humans were not the weak, primitive people they thought they were.